Hello everyone, my name is Mitchell, and today I'm going to start a new project of recording my life stories. Um, I have a very interesting life experience. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York in the 1950s. In the 1960s, I was a wild, crazy hippie and running around to rock concert after rock concert. In the 70s, I became a school teacher. I actually had many, many different jobs in my life. Then I learned yoga and went to India 15 times and studied meditation and yoga. And I actually lived in the jungle for 4 months practicing meditation. Later on, I settled down in California. I was involved in the yoga group there, and 10 years ago, I married for the first time and moved to London with my beautiful wife, Monica. So I've had many, many interesting stories in my life, and I thought this would be during this lockdown is a time to start telling them. Um, One of the reasons is I have a fantastic memory of things that happened long ago. I can't remember what I did yesterday, and maybe even this morning, but 60 years ago, I can remember very precisely incidents of my childhood. So that's why I can, which will make this interesting because these are true stories, and the ones I'm going to tell, I think have motivational and inspirational value. So I'm going to tell one story uh, every episode, and we'll see if they if people like them. Um, so for today's story, in the 1950s, I lived in the housing projects of the East New York section of Brooklyn. It was called the Boulevard Projects. And I even remember I lived in 359 Wortman Avenue, apartment 4C. My telephone number, Cloverdale 73962. You see, I can remember exactly I can't remember my own phone number today, but I can remember that phone number from 60 years ago. So that's interesting. And there's something about numbers that somehow, if the number sticks in my mind, I sort of like I can't get it out. For example, I remember went to school, and I heard one time that the Ottoman Turks, captured Constantinople in 1453. I mean, I might have heard that 50 years ago, and I can't forget it. I still remember 1453. Turks captured Constantinople. That's one of the quirky things about myself, remembering numbers. Anyway, I grew up. My whole childhood I spent in the housing projects of Brooklyn, and today I'm going to tell one story. One thing special about that Brooklyn at that time, it was a very even in this low income housing projects, it was very, very safe. Women could walk around day and night alone, no problem. Mothers sent us out to play without worry. So even when I was 6, 7 years old, I was wandering around by myself. So the story may sound unusual, but that's how it was. It was a very safe and very happy times in Brooklyn then. And so one day, first of all, I'd like to tell you how the projects were situated. Think of a huge square and apartment buildings on the edge of the whole square and a little bit inland. But in the center was we call it the big circle, a large green space with beautiful grass. But very interestingly, no one was allowed legally to go onto the grass. Somehow, and they even had police called the maintenance police who would patrol it and chase children away when we went out to play. Anyway, I'm 7 years old, this little skinny boy, and I take a walk around the big circle. And I reach a building, at the outside of a building. I know because my cousins live there in that building, the Napolitanos. But outside I saw a man with a heavy bag of groceries, and then elderly man, he dropped the bag. He didn't do it on purpose. He just, for some reason, he couldn't hold it, and he dropped it. So I'm a 7-year-old boy. I'm about 20, 30 feet away, and I'm wondering, well, why doesn't he pick up the bag? And I come a little closer, and I looked into the elderly man's eyes, and I saw tears. This man was crying. And as a 7-year-old boy, I was trying to compute, this is a strange situation, what's going on? And then it came to me in a flash, in an intuition, that this man simply was unable to bend down to pick up the bag. And he was crying. And I think that's when compassion was awakened in me at that very, very moment. I felt so sorry for him, so sad. And as I was standing there, I imagined that this elderly man was once 7 years old, just like myself. That he would used to run and jump and play, and the world was just a beautiful dream, and he had such high hopes for the future. And now he was at a stage of life where he couldn't even bend down to pick up this bag of groceries. So I walked over, I picked up the bag of groceries, I handed it to the man, and he was still crying. But I had a feeling as a 7-year-old boy that the crying was different now. It was more of perhaps a crying of gratitude. That he's very happy that someone came over to help him. Then he slowly walked into his building, and I never saw him again. But I remember this incident, and perhaps why it's the first story that I'm going to tell, is that it meant so much to me. I learned compassion. I made up, you could say, almost like a vow at that very moment. I would dedicate my life to helping people, especially those in need, especially caring for elderly people. And it's something that I would never ever forget. And the second thing that woke in my mind is that I never wanted to reach that stage where I would be so helpless as that man. So the idea of health and keeping fit and keeping strong, not only in my youth, in my middle age, but even in my senior years, became a focus point in my life, even at 7 years old. Anyway, so that story, I have many more stories from Brooklyn and in India and California and London. But in the future, I'm going to jump up and down with these stories. I'm not going to keep chronological order, but I'm going to tell stories. Each story has a moral, something, an inspirational note, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.